Welcome to the Spiritualpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Christian, aka Love Pixel. And in each episode, we sit down with spiritual entrepreneurs sharing their knowledge, wisdom, and tools on their path to authentic success. Let's dive in. What is up, beautiful people? This is Christian from the Successful Spiritualpreneur Podcast. And today I'm super excited to have Ryan Berman on the show. And he is a corporate fear fighter. I'll let that sink in for a second. He's the founder of Courageous, the author of Return on Courage, and the host of the Courageous podcast. For over 25 years, Ryan has helped corporations who have been stuck, scared, stale, or safe to choose courage. He has counseled on the topic at Google, Procter & Gamble, Kellogg's, Kraft Heinz, Bausch & Lomb, Atlanta Falcons, Houston Texans, LA Galaxy, Snapchat, and many others. His consulting firm Courageous is a full-spectrum courage company guiding its client through courageous conversations, courageous decisions, courageous ideas, and you guessed it, courageous transformation. Ryan believes that change can be hard, but the hardships that come from not changing are far harder. You can learn more about Ryan at ryanberman.com. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Yeah, can you believe what business I'm in? I'm in the courage business, Christian. Is that a surprise?
I know. It's so cool. Like, how did you make that your thing? Without any further ado in your story, and why courage? Like, why that? Why, and how do you make it such an impactful philosophy?
I mean, I think like a lot of us, you go through life early and you're a bit on autopilot. Like I have these, if I really sit back and audit my life, and I think we're not great at this, right? Because we're just going through life. But if you actually sit back and put your life on pause, I call them the S's of life. Like there's four S's, these four stages. And the first S was shoved. Like life is shoved at you. And like whatever you grow up in, your parents' beliefs are your beliefs, right? Like whatever city you grew up in, you root for those teams, and like those are your people. And so however you started, life is sort of just shoved at you, and that's your belief system. And then for me, I moved near my 18, 20, 25. You move into what I would call survival mode. And you're like, oh shoot, I now have to leave. I go to college, I leave my home, and you're like, I need a job. Who's going to give me a job? Wait, you'll pay me for that? I'm in. But you're kind of like the duck, like underneath the surface, your legs are moving, but above it, you're just doing the best you can. And I think a lot of people never leave survival mode. I think they stay in that space, and this is the power of fear. And in those years of survival, the environment for me was New York City, and it was an awesome environment. I grew up on Madison Avenue. All of my mentors were crazy madmen who you're playing in a very elite arena to learn story, but it's also exactly what you'd expect. I mean, it's transactional, it's ruthless, it's around the clock. It was a different time also, but it was survival mode. It's almost too fast, and you're just trying to like stay at the speed of New York City. And everybody has their version of survival mode, but that was mine. And then in those moments, you do meet a few people, not many, that you're like, oh shoot, I need to stay close to that person. That person hasn't figured out. Or like, wow, who's that person? And you start to see certain people that are saying no for the first time. They're not just on autopilot, and life starts to slow down, and you move into the next S, which I think is success mode. And success mode is you get to call some of the shots. Success mode is you understanding a few of the rules, unspoken rules of society, like being able to say no to certain things. And success people, like when you're in that success mode, you want to surround yourself with other people in success mode. And yeah, usually you're also, it's not just like good for all of me. You're making money. You're actually like on your path. You have this idea of like all of that craft and all of that work has put you on a path to make more money. And then at some point, it's like, wait a minute, there's got to be more than money. And the last S for me, in my opinion, is soul mode. And for me, it's like, I want to make money, but I want to do good. I want to be a mentor. I want to give back, right? I want to find my people. I want to find my community. And so, like a lot of us, I feel like I was going through life. Lots of people that I love were telling me what life was all about. You assume that's the book of your life. And then at some moment, you're like, wait a minute, record scratch moment. And you start auditing the decisions that you make. And it was interesting that almost every single time I made a really scary move, looking back at it, I'm like, those are the moments I remember. Those are the moments that changed me. Going to New York City, leaping from being on the business side to being on the creative side. I now live in California, moving to San Diego, starting my first company, having the courage to buy out a partner, having the courage to merge the company. Like every moment that I really remember is that moment where I took a leap. And it wasn't until I started writing my book, Return on Courage, where I really got to get quiet and interview lots of different types of people. And you can't help but then look at their stories and reflect it at yours, where you're like, wow, almost every single time it was a courageous move. I didn't even realize like that we were two passing ships in the night. I was just living my life. And then where I really got the most energy is when it was that scary little tension moment and I did it anyway. And it's like, wow, there's something with this word, right? And so did I find this word? Did this word find me? There's certainly many, many things. It is a little nature nurture of my environment that allowed me the ability to continue to leap. And then you go deeper down the rabbit hole and you deconstruct, all right, what is this word courage really all about? Is this the right word? And since 2019 now, this experiment called Courageous and helping leaders be a little bit more clear. I mean, I definitely said, Christian, like you cannot be courageous when you're cloudy, just like you can't see your true north on a foggy night. And so if our job is to help leaders and companies find their true north, it means first getting them clear and then on something that's worth having conviction for. And we're kind of full circle back where you started. If you have those two, there's probably some confidence that comes along with that for you to keep doing it again and again.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a cool journey. While you were talking, I was like, you know what the fifth S might be?
Tell me.
It might be spirit,
I like it.
you know? Because
I,
ultimately we're not the body, you know, we're gonna leave this vessel anyways, you know what I mean? So the last stage is just returning back to that source, to that oneness where everything comes from anyways, and realizing how everything has happened for a reason, you know?
yeah.
So
I wonder if I don't know if it feels like to me something that's always been there. So I don't know if it's like a separate stage, but just to stay with the S's, like if we said something like your spirit can be suppressed spirit, right? Like suppressed spirit, because I've always felt it, but I think a lot of people, when the old version of work was, this is pre-COVID work for a lot of people, was you would go to work during the week and then the weekend would happen and there'd be this imaginary line that you would drive home and you'd cross over this fictitious line and like personal you showed back up and then you'd go home and you'd do what lights you up. You'd paint or you'd binge watch or you'd watch your favorite team and then Monday shows up and then it's like you put on your khaki pants or whatever whatever you're wearing and you cross back over that imaginary line and you have this sort of fictitious version of this other persona of you that goes to work that doesn't really show all of themselves. And I think that's the suppressed spirit. Like I think that's the again on my journey that spirit's still in there. I just have like buried it until finally I was like, wait a minute. And again, in the book writing journey for me, one of my very first interviews was with a woman named Loretta Hidalgo, who was a founding astronaut at Virgin Galactic, and she said her definition of success is when there's no daylight between the personal you and the professional you. And that was the one that got me going. No, 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 no. Like I didn't know it at the time, but you're like, no, 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 spirit, stay suppressed, stay down there, don't come out in my work. And the more I've been on this journey about courage, the more I've realized that being the true version of yourself is an act of courage. And like that's really what it's all about is designing a life where you can actually be you on Monday, on Thursday, on Sunday. That's the
Mhm.
goal.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this podcast is about. Spiritual entrepreneur. It's like you want to combine these two worlds, because the less you need to change yourself, put on a persona, or suppress something, the more authentic you are throughout your day and throughout your life, every single day. And the more you live in authenticity with who you are at any given moment, and also can do that because of environment of work and et cetera, like the more your frequency, energy, vibration, whatever you want to call it, is just like it's just freeing. Like it's like you're living freer every day, you know?
I
So
also think as a guy that's come out of marketing, which is my background, and let's agree that I think marketing can get a bad rap. Like advertising can get a bad rap, but just the fact that a guy in Florida and a guy in California could connect. Like you've only found me because I'm putting my signals of courage into the world. And it just so happens that it aligns with your version of logic. So again, it's sort of that is the power of being genuine. That means you need to know who you are and you need to like put your bat signal into the world so the right people see it. Now there's lots of other people that probably are like, Christian, what are you talking about? I just want to make a ton of money. They're probably not listening to this podcast. I mean, who doesn't like money? But like they're probably not figuring out like how to live fully in alignment. In some ways you're kind of you're like a health chiropractor, right? You're like helping people get into alignment again. And we were there at some point. Like I think that's the thing. Like gravity of life usually is the thing that throws us out of alignment. Maybe it was at the age of 3 or 4 or 7 or our childhoods, but it happens to the best of us.
yeah, so true. So can you just share with us like what were like pivotal moments in your life that led you to that realization of like, well, let me get more into that alignment, because um I feel ultimately a life that is just out of balance or one side is not worth it. Like, what were those moments in your life?
Yeah, I think many of them came after I was in California. The collection of experiences did give me confidence, but I've always taken pride at hearing what's not said, right? It's like I'm fluent in subtext. Like you said one thing, but it really means something else. And so when you audit all of those little moments and you're being the observationalist that you are, I was like, well, let's see here. There's a very specific moment at my last business where we were around 90 people and I can see myself now sitting in my office. And I remembered feeling, did I just work like a decade of my life? And is this how I'm supposed to feel? Cause and I, I'm back then, I think I was relatively young. I was 37, 38. And I'm like, is this it? So I thought, let's start there. Like, if you've said the words to yourself, is this it? That is like the signal? The answer is it isn't it. But you got to have the courage to like address that moment, right? So I could see myself in that moment, and there was so much wrapped into it, like because you'd given all yourself to this company. My identity was wrapped in that world. I had fear on if I could like even leap out of that world. I'm like, how exhausting is this going to be to like pivot and leap? Is there a net? And I think there's two worlds. You talk about spirit. There's two worlds that are constantly at battle for all of us. There's one that's above the neck, and there's one that's below the neck. And the above the neck for us in our minds, we're trying to constantly talk ourselves in and out of what's right for us. And the nervous system is so good at doing what it does. It's just designed to keep us safe. It's just designed to like tell you not to leap. And it gives you all the reasons why. But if you can start to trust what's below the neck a little bit more, there's another little hum of a voice or a feeling that's saying, you know, the truth. Like you know, again,
Hmm.
it's the suppressed spirit. So we're all fighting these two worlds, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see how in corporate world, really what counts is the mind space, right? The logic, the data, the analytics, the productivity, the measurable things. And what really counts for humans is the one, below the shoulders, the heart set,
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see that. And I believe maybe not always, but oftentimes, like the heart is so much more intelligent and wise than the mind. Like it doesn't even understand. Like the decision from the head and analytics is definitely smarter. Like and it makes more sense and maybe also more profit. But long term, is it really the thing that's gonna get this company forward? So basically, what you're doing is you're going into companies and bringing them more in their heart space, and on a long term basis, they will make better, more wise, aligned decisions because the body and people in certain positions, they know sometimes intuitively whether to take a department in this direction or that direction.
And just to put it, use another word, they don't just know; they also feel.
Hmm.
Right? They feel when they should take the organization in another direction. What's really crazy, Christian, is like a lot of the times that I've now been able to address companies. Like I have one in mind right now. So like I can see myself in Houston right now, and it was probably 2 years ago, and this was like one of the most terrifying rooms I had painted in my head. It wasn't a terrifying room when I was there, but in my head, like, and the room was full of Deloitte employees. And it's like when you think of thinking, when you think of like brilliant people, right? You're like, yeah, I'm thinking Deloitte. I'm thinking Bain. I'm thinking these colossal
Hmm.
consultants. And I remember walking into the room and going, I couldn't even imagine having the ability to outthink this room, but I can outfeel this room,
Interesting.
right? It's
Isn't,
like
isn't it isn't it fascinating how like one heart is so much more intelligent than 100 brains?
it all has a role. It all has a role, right? Like this, I think the secret of life is when you realize that we're all cocktails, right? It's just a
Mm.
cocktail. It's like a splash of thinking, a dash of feeling, and a skosh of doing. And when you get the think, the feel, and the do all in there together, right? Like, by the way, my magic gets better thanks to Deloitte. Like, when the thinkers think and they do their part, they're giving the feelers what they need to then take it to the next level. Now, to my knowledge, which is a funny way to say it because we're talking about feeling, behavior change really happens only when you feel it, right? If it's stuck in the head, there's nothing I will say today that is going to convince Christian of anything, but I may say something that gives you enough to convince yourself. That's as good as I got, right? And how's that going to happen? You feel it. You're like, yeah, actually, that's how I feel about this. And so I think that's when you say how strong the heart is, that empath in me understands. Okay, when you go into a company, creating courageousness, it does happen from the inside out. And what I think I continue to see out there are businesses. Sometimes they're winning, but the minute that they're not, they're like, wait, what's going on? Then the business is put on pause. They're like, maybe it's the culture, maybe it's the inside. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, no. Like the companies that thrive are the ones that mitigate the daylight that exists between the inside of the organization and the out. It's the culture and the business. That's where the outcomes come from. So that's really what we do is creating a courageous company. It happens from the inside out, and that starts with, all right, leaders, what courageous conversation are we not having? All right, leaders, what courageous decisions are we not making?
Mm.
All right, leaders, where do we not have that clarity that we need to create believers? Okay, now let's talk about the business. Now let's talk about how we want to show up. Now let's talk about courageous transformation, courageous change, courageous ideas. It's a really, really fun space to be in. And I've definitely said, like, yeah, I get paid to tell the truth. Like, that's why you bring me in. And there's a lot of joy with that.
I know. It's so cool. And I think it's really cool how, like you said, it's neither fully the heart nor the mind. It's just that in certain circumstances or situations, it is overly mind versus overly heart,
Yeah.
or overly doing without mind and heart. So like bringing these three components into balance is really where, the that's where the golden ticket is for all companies and even ourselves as individuals out there.
And usually we over index on one, right? So, like, I'm grateful for Billy Collins, who's my partner. He runs our knowledge team. Like, his whole thing is knowledge gathering. That's the think part of our business. And then he's setting my team up on the faith building side, which is what we call it. Like, I run the faith team, right? Why do we have faith in this? Why do we have belief in this? Have we come up with the exact precise words? And people can be like, oh, I actually can buy into that. Yeah, you're actually willing to give your Monday to Friday because you believe in this. And then Nicole Miller, our third partner, runs our action team. So we have these little special forces units that help companies figure out their special and bring to life their special. But it's done through the lens of thinking, feeling, and doing, knowledge plus faith plus action, which is actually our definition of courage. And if you remove one of those three levers, it's something else. So knowledge plus faith without action is paralysis, right? How often have you known the right move? Think about when you started the podcast. Like, maybe how long did you think about starting and you felt it was right? And you're like, why am I not doing this? Right. So, like, thinking
Yeah.
and feeling without doing is paralysis. Faith and action without knowledge, well, that's a reckless move, right? That's a careless move. I've leapt all heart. I'm jumping and I'm like, I probably should have brought a parachute. Like, have some knowledge and some wisdom and some data before we leap. And then from a corporate standpoint, this works in life as well, but like knowledge and action without faith, like when you're numb on the inside and you're just going through the motions and you don't have that little voice talking to you anymore, saying, what am I doing? This is imposter syndrome. This is crazy. Am I really going to ask that investor for this money? If that little voice has gone away and you're numb, you're working on status quo. You're working on safe. You actually want imposter syndrome. You actually want that little voice. You actually want that, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I can feel like the sweat on the back of my neck. So to me, that our whole company is built off of, well, if you deconstruct courage, it's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool framework to also just like apply for any type of strategy or thing you might build up for yourself. Applying these three quadrants or whatever
Yeah.
circles and seeing, is this what am I doing? What I'm doing here in alignment with all three.
And to us, like that's if you're in the strategy business and you're going to take anything away from today, take a piece of paper, break it into three, and on the right, on the left side, put what do I think about this? In the middle, put how's it going to make me feel? How's it going to make my customer feel? And then on the bottom, put what are we going to do about this? Right. To me, that is the process by which we follow. It's the thinking, it's the feeling, and it's the doing. And if you get that right, you got a shot to like overcome those large obstacles.
Yeah, beautiful. Is there a similar framework, or obviously could be the same, but like how do you apply that to starting a new company or starting a new project arm of your company?
Yeah, great question. So um, this is kind of a little matrixy. We're entering red pill, blue pill mode here. But so when I wrote Return on Courage, the next question, the first 6 months was like looking at the dictionary definition of courage and realizing I didn't like the utility of the dictionary definition, which is the ability to do something that frightens you. So that first 6 months was like coming up with that construct. And then the rabbit hole was okay, if we believe this to be true, then which knowledge should you follow? How do you actually build team faith? And where should we take action and where shouldn't we take action? And so in the book, uh, we go over this 5-step process. There's a price of courage. Price is an acronym. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And price, and again, we don't have to go crazy here on it, but it's in Return on Courage. So if you want to pick it up, you can Amazon it away. Price stands for prioritize through values, rally believers, identify fears, commit to a purpose, and execute your action. So like these are the steps. Like if I'm starting a company, I'm going back to prioritize, then rally. So look at your values. Like what are the values of the company? I always start Christian with core values are not eye rolls. They're how the exceptional roll. And again, data point on why we met because I was putting something out in the world on my values that aligned with your values. And you're like, oh, this dude seems cool. I want to reach out to him. Right. That's all it was a shared value system between one of my values and one of your values.
Hmm.
So if you're listening and you're starting a business or you already have your business, this is the moment that I would ask you to pull off on the side of the road if you're listening. This is your car because like take this away. How valuable are your values? Do you really know how valuable your values are? A lot of companies that we deal with because they get big is they've forgotten how important those are. Over 40 years, there's been erosion of the values. And now it's like, great, it's in an employee manual or it's lobby wall art, but they have not operationalized the values. Maybe they need to be refreshed, maybe, a little bit more energy. So I'd start there. Like, look at the values of the company. Are they real? Also, the number one value of courageous, and it's not Ryan Berman's number one value, but the company's core value is sacrifice. So we help companies make hard choices. So if you've got 7 values, 10 values, you're watering down another value that you already have. So make choices on those values. I think once you have that and they're real and you're hiring off those values, then you move to the next layer, which is rally believers. And you even make believers or fake believers, right? Like fake believers don't walk around the office wearing a t-shirt that says fake believer, right? They just sort of nod and smile and collect a paycheck. And so use those values to find the right people that are on the mission with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say the sole goal of leadership is believership, right? Your whole goal as a leadership is to be the believership and to make believers in the people that are working with you on the cause. So those two steps are where you start. Those are what I would call the organizational health steps. And then, in the spirit of time, I will say the I is identify fears. So we're kind of back to the top of the show where we are fear fighters. I think most people want to suppress that fear versus address that fear. And we just have a very different way at looking at fear where it's not about burying it. It's let's pull it out, talk about the fears that the organization has. Is it a vertical fear that could take the whole industry down? I mean, if you're a spiritual entrepreneur, then most likely you are the industry fear. Like you are probably building something that a big company should be afraid of. You're trying to disrupt the entire industry, right? Because it's not just about the mind, it's about something bigger. So, an industry fear, that vertical buster, is one of 5 fears that we look at. Another one is service fears from a customer service standpoint. Another one is personal fears. Can you truly speak up inside your organization? Or do you feel like you always have to bite your lip? I always say, you want to watch your back culture or got your back culture? Which one
Mm-hmm.
would you rather be in? So this is the work that we do with our clients. It's like very much smoking out all this stuff. You can't address it if it's buried.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Bringing things to the surface and really just dealing with things that are, under the surface, hidden.
I
So
mean, some of it's problem solution, right? It's like, right now, we got the problem. Now let's go forward, right? It's like, what's going to be our cause here? What is our rally cry here as an organization? So again, in the spirit of saving the audience here from the whole book, all of this is what the 3-year listening lap was doing, was sitting with people that were running companies and coming up with this methodology that holds your hand through a courageous process.
yeah, and the book again, for all the listeners, it's called Return on Courage.
Yeah. And if you like my
So
voice, you can, I did the audible. That was fun.
I love it. That's great.
Uh,
So I have a couple more personal questions as we near the end of the episode, and that is what would be like? What are 3 words you want people to know you for after you leave this physical plane? And I think I know one, but I don't know. I don't think I know the other two, so I'm curious.
hmm. I mean, I don't know if I want people to know me for this, but yeah, obviously, one of them, which is courage, right? Like, I think a life worth living is a courageous one,
Hmm.
right? And we can all have, it's a whole other episode, right, on what life we're in. but for now, let's assume this is the one we should be focused on. So a courageous life is a life worth living. Um, 2, I would say kindness. I'm a glass half full person, and I definitely have my style, but it's always rooted in goodness and kindness. And like, I think if I was at a dinner the other night, and so I had my birthday this week, and one of my buddies at dinner is like, Ryan treats everyone the same. He's like, whether he knows you or not, like he's like, the amount of times I've sat at a table, he's like, what would Ryan do here? Like with somebody new. And it's like, I'm definitely of the mindset of, I trust you until you give me a reason not to. But there's so many people on the other side of that, right? And then, gosh, the third word, I think the third word is probably just human, like not afraid to be human. It's a messy experiment. So I don't think someone will be saying at my eulogy, oh, Ryan was such a human. And it's almost like a funny word to say, but putting it all out there, right? The good, the hard, right? You see it around my back here with this "Brave what's hard" is our tagline, and it's like sometimes it's the hard stuff, even the hard stuff to talk about, that makes you personable, makes you approachable, and so the human experiment as a whole, just showing who I am. I mean, I guess that's authenticity. I guess that's real. Just
Yeah.
being real, right? Just
Mm.
being real. I think being real is the path to being relatable. So
Beautiful. Yeah.
those are my three.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. And
Yeah.
next question would be, who or what inspires you the most in your spiritual and entrepreneurial journey currently?
Oh wow. I would say probably my family, but that's I'm kind of bundling them all together. I mean, my wife has really had a rebirth, but she's super spiritual, almost Buddhist. She's not Buddhist, but almost Buddhist. We got a lot of Buddhas around the house here. So I love that she like nothing throws her off who she is,
Mm.
which is
Beautiful.
cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and then my kids, just because I don't know if you feel this way, but I think we're like little boys and girls trapped in these adult bodies, and we're just doing
Hmm.
the best we can to like remember what we loved, when we were kids. And
Hmm.
maybe that's a data point that I had a good childhood, right? But like, I think they remind me to play, and I think play and spirit are connected.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, it's a true joy, family, there's where there's so much shared and cultured and nurtured and cultivated. It's such an incredible space of this. I mean, it's where that's why people say that's where it's at, because that's where it's at.
That's
That's
where
where
it's at.
everything gets, put into action, the thinking, the feeling, the doing. It's a beautiful space. I have a little one too, so it's an honor, to raise them.
Yes.
And yeah, and with that we come to our next question, which is, what's your vision of the new Earth? Whatever you think that is, the new Earth.
I mean, this is only through my lens, right? My version of the new earth is, again, if the data that I've seen is correct, good news or bad news, the facts are 95% of us are freeze or flight. That means 5% of us are fighters. So if I'm designing my version of the new earth, every bat signal I put out into the world is to attract that 5%, right? I think we make this, it's not our fault, but like we try to fix everybody, and not everybody can be fixed.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
not
I'm
everybody wants to be fixed. Not everybody's
right.
ready. Because
I'm
you can save someone, but then a month later they're in the ditch again. It's
and
like,
there's a lot of people out there that love to save people, right? That love to save people. Like just the you probably can see that puppy dog person, right? Like, oh, I saved that little puppy, and it's like, well, is that where you're going to put your energy and your focus? So to me, I'm really focused in the U.S. on 3.4 million people, like 1%. 1%. Can I build a community of 1% of people that want to choose courage, that should know each other, that should collide with each other, that can learn from each other? They're thinkers, they're feelers, they're doers. We need each other. But I'm trying to just continue to be disciplined on finding those people. And community will be a big part of where we go because, I mean, I think we can agree that the world needs more courage. We could probably agree that your world needs more courage. And so if I could develop spaces for us to all collide, who knows what could happen? And I have to surrender the rest almost. Like I have to, by the way, tough thing to do with certain family members by blood. You know what I'm saying? Like the
yeah.
certain people that you've, like some cousin or, and here's another crazy thing, like 50% of the US lives 50 miles from where they were born. Yeah, the apple truly doesn't fall far from the tree. And I wonder, I don't know the numbers on this, but I wonder what percentage of that is like you're guilted into thinking you need to live near family, even if
Hmm.
they don't share your logic. So I was always gifted the opportunity to be independent and go live my adventure. It doesn't mean I don't miss my parents, still alive. They're on the East Coast, but I love the journey that I'm on. I certainly don't have it figured out, but it's in progress on the experiment.
I love it. Yeah. And thanks for, being so authentic in your own courage, showing us that, yeah, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm still doing it every day. I'm showing up, because I think at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Showing up consistently is what builds, your muscle or heart or whatever, in your life. So, yeah, thanks for sharing all that. And then, as closing, advice and final thoughts, like what are your last words that you want to leave the audience with, and where can people find you?
Well, I mean, first of all, if you've made it this far into the episode, then that alone is a data point, right? That alone should say something really curious about this topic, right? Like, honor that. I'm a podcast host too. I've got my Courageous podcast. I always try to like be really thoughtful. If an audience has, there's some episodes that people are out in 14 minutes, right? Like, and there's some episodes that here you are, like, why this one? Why did you stay so long? So there's something about what we talked about that I think you should consider exploring longer. Whether it's the piece of paper and breaking it into think, feel, and do. Sure, if you want to learn more about me, ryanberman.com is probably the best place to start. But maybe there's some fear that you've got that you're working through. Well, put time on the calendar and like go fight the fear, like bring it out to the surface, try to understand it. Um, One of the guys that I follow, his name is Seth Godin. He's a very well known. Um, he's just like a guru in the thinking space, and I once had him on my podcast and made a joke how I was in the fear shrinkage business. And he said, no, 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 no. He's like, you want to balloon fear and give it gratitude. That makes it less scary. And that
Hmm.
always stood with me. So maybe there's like some fear right now that you have to balloon and give it gratitude and then start to like go after it. But if you're still here, there's something about this topic worth exploring. Or go to returnoncourage.com, grab the book, and never hesitate to reach out. And if you have an idea for me or you like something in the book, if you want to challenge something in the book, we're, like I said, we're all on this journey to get better and keep experimenting. So probably a good place to end. Appreciate
Yeah,
you bringing me on, Christian.
I love it. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on and being so real, sharing your heart, sharing your wisdom, and just being such a after all the success you've had, you still are balanced in yourself, and that's something I admire deeply. So thanks for showing up with that integrity and authenticity.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know what? We're both trying to figure it out. It's no different. Simple as
Mm.
that.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for coming on.
You got him in.